Hi. The classroom story I want to tell you today has to do with um, classroom behaviors that really have to do more with children not being socialized in how to behave at school. I know new teachers are often afraid of the really violent or defiant child, but those are not the most frequent behaviors you will see and have to address at school. I mentioned earlier this year that uh, every year at kindergarten has to deal with children who leave school the first week. They just walk home because they think, oh, I wanted a snack and my house was down the street, so I went home. Because they're not socialized that you can't just leave in the middle of the day. And so today I want to tell you a story about a child I had. This was a fourth grade class. And this child, this is the first day of school, and this child had been homeschooled up until this point. And this is not a video about homeschooling not being right or being wrong. It can be perfectly fine for many children and families. But in this particular circumstance, because the child had been homeschooled until fourth grade, he didn't have any of the social skills that you need to survive in a classroom. And so the first day of school, I look over at a little boy who I'd asked everybody to write their name on their paper, and he was absolutely sobbing. I thought someone hit him. It was just awful. So I went over to try to talk to him to see what had happened. Why was he upset? And he wouldn't talk. He just kept crying and crying and crying. And I had the rest of my class to deal with. So I sent for somebody at the office. We had a support team that would come and help with big situations. And so this person took the child out and talked to him for a bit. And what it turned out was he needed help. And at home, when he needed help, he just cried like a baby. He didn't raise his hand because he didn't know to raise his hand. He wasn't socialized. So it wasn't a behavior of defiance or a really naughty behavior. It was a behavior of simply not being socialized in how to behave at school. So the little boy's name was Josh. So I said, Josh, when you need Mrs. Williams' help, you're going to raise your hand like this. And so I was modeling for him. And that will tell me that you need help. And then I had a few other kids help with it. So Mike, can you show us what happens when you need help? And then, Mary, can you show us? And Mary raises her hand. So, and then I would say, oh, I see someone that needs help. And so what's interesting is you think, oh, I'll just tell the children this and then they would do it. But this required quite a bit of reinforcement. So again, later in the same day, the child needed something and they just started crying. And I said, I sure see somebody that needs help and they need to raise their hand. And the students in my class were so helpful. They were like, it's Josh. Josh needs help. But I just kept reinforcing that I'll come over and help you when you raise your hand. And finally, around the third day of school, I see this, and his hand went up. And so I went over to speak to Josh. I said, oh, I'm so proud of you for raising your hand and showing me that you need help. And I made sure I went over and gave him help right away. And in that way, we socialized Josh with the simple behavior of how to ask for help in the classroom. So this is just a story about how a lot of behaviors you encounter are about a child not being socialized, or a group of children needing to be reminded of a classroom rule and to practice the classroom procedure. Not all behavior has to do with just being naughty. Thank you. I'm Linda Williams.